Good evening everybody, and welcome to American Civil War and UK history. And we've come out to a very special little spot, and to explain it is Bryan Cheeseboro.
Hey Darren. So here we are at Fort Stevens in Washington DC. A lot of times we see things written about Fort Stevens. People say outside of the District of Columbia or near Washington DC, but it actually is in DC. At the time, this area was an entity known as Washington County, DC. You can look that up, Washington County, District of Columbia. It was rural farmland. The city was much further south, a few miles south, Washington City, DC. But it was in these areas, this rural countryside, where these forts to protect the city were built. So Fort Stevens, Fort Totten, just to the east of this, that's a metro station now. Fort DeRussey's just to the west. This is the northernmost fort, and because of that, when the Confederate Army, Jubal Early's army, in the summer of 1864, Confederate Army splits again. The Army of Northern Virginia splits, and some of these soldiers are sent into the Shenandoah, and they fight through Winchester, the Battle of Newmarket, and then keep fighting, and then make their way back across the Potomac once again. And then they fight at Monocacy, which is just west of here. After that battle at Monocacy in Frederick, Maryland, they literally marched in like a couple days to make it all the way in the summer, in the heat. You have soldiers falling out and everything like that along that march. And that march is roughly brings them down to Wisconsin Avenue in DC, or in Maryland. And then they dogleg across over Veers Mill and then come down what is Georgia Avenue. So they're making their way down. Georgia is just over this fortification right here, Georgia Avenue. And so they make their way down, and as they're approaching all of these areas. This fortification was fortified at the time by soldiers before this battle, who were those men who had been in these forts for quite some time. Fort Stevens dates from, I think, 1861 or such. And so they had been here, they had really not seen any action. So right before this battle takes place, Grant decides to need more men, so they take the men out of these forts and replace them with guys who don't have much experience. Some of the soldiers are these 100-day men who enlist in places like Ohio. Was a big 100-day regiment, 100-day men state, regiments like that. So these are guys who sign up, enlist for like 90 days, 100 days, and then you can go home. So they don't have too much invested in their military experience, but they're here at the fort. So you have guys like that. You also have what was the Veteran Reserve Corps. This is something only during the American Civil War, and these were guys who were disabled soldiers who had lost limbs or a finger or something like that, and then they were put into fight until the Union Army 6th Corps and elements of the 19th Corps could get up here to then hold the line for the Union. But as Lincoln said, it's interesting that at one time we were 5 miles from Richmond and, conceivably Union victory in 1862 and such, and now suddenly the Confederates are 5 miles from us. The capital, where we're down that area, was about literally 5 miles from this spot. And so if you might also notice, you can probably look down a little bit, you see that just kind of goes into a valley there. So this area was chosen because it's high ground. This area also was land owned by a black woman named Elizabeth Thomas. Everybody is free in DC when they basically seize this land. But Elizabeth Thomas owned the land, and the story is that when they came to basically take over this, and they're tearing her house down or whatever they're doing to build this fort, she's obviously, devastated by the loss, and she has her child with her. And then a man comes along to her and says, "It is hard, but you'll reap a great reward." Of course, that man was Abraham Lincoln, or so the story goes. We'll probably never really know if that is really true, but it's a great story otherwise. Unfortunately, she did not receive financial compensation within a lifetime. But I think that she's reaped a great reward and that she is remembered. She's an element of this battle, of this place that is remembered and remains remembered, and to the point where this street behind us where the cars are, that's Elizabeth Thomas Way, formerly Quackenbos or Quackenbos Street. Over here, just with the sun going down, this is the memorial boulder. This was boulder was pulled from Rock Creek Park, which is just that way, when it was dedicated in 1911. There was a big ceremony here and everything, and that was even before much of this, the replica fortifications, the platforms for the guns. The guns were even put here before any of this was here. Before any of this was restored, they managed to they put this boulder here and dedicated it because this spot was supposed to be the spot where Abraham Lincoln stood when he watched the battle. He decided that he was going to get up on this parapet and he was going to witness the battle, because up this way he could see the Confederate Army coming, and there were some sharpshooters in trees and in some buildings. We don't know if they could actually see him or recognize who he was or anything like that, but obviously he was considered to be in great danger. And as the story goes, he was told, "Get down, you fool, you're going to get shot." That is supposed to have been Oliver Wendell Holmes, who said it, this future Supreme Court Justice. We don't know if he said it. It was said, believed to be said by many people and not just him. I like to say that if anyone said it, it was Mrs. Lincoln, because she was actually here at the time as well. But anyway, in 1920, that's when they put in this plaque showing Lincoln under fire at Fort Stevens, and this is based on a real event. Here's Lincoln. This person reeling back after being shot was Cornelius Crawford, who was a U.S. Army surgeon. He was up here on the parapet as well. We're not completely sure if this was the spot. Some people have believed it was actually over that way, which is a homeless shelter was built there. We don't know, but Lincoln was here in fact. We believe he came in through this back way here. Soldiers' barracks were back behind the fort, and the battle was a Union victory, United States victory. The Confederates, when the Army Sixth Corps came up, the Confederates pushed them back and won the day, July 11th and 12th, 1864. And that's it.
Okay.
You cannot underestimate the urgency of this battle as well. Brian was telling you about the Confederates being in Frederick, Maryland, and Monocacy. Well, Juba Early actually put Frederick, Maryland under the gun, and it was asking for tribute, demanding tribute. In fact, that winter, before, if I'm not correct, was it what year was it? Chambersburg burnt to the ground.
Chambersburg was actually after this.
Yeah,
Chambersburg was in July of 1864. So
yeah.
Basically, Confederate cavalry under what's his name? I'm forgetting. They make it up north to Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, and demand a ransom and burn the town.
Yeah, and Frederick, Maryland was under a similar threat as far as that's concerned. It was basically giving you money out of extortion. It was almost a gangster form of warfare, do I dare say it. You know what I'm saying?
Nothing to dare about it. That's it. Now that's really pretty much it.
Yeah.
And really, as the war goes on, you see a lot more of that. I just noticed really a lot of retaliatory burnings, kidnappings, killings. All of these things are taking place. I mean, war is hell, as Sherman said. But just, I think in 1864, you're really seeing a lot of that. So I know that burning of Chambersburg, I think, was retaliation for Winchester, when they burned Winchester during in the Valley. I think that was the specific retaliation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you used to live here, Brian, didn't you?
I did.
There you go.
Okay,
You've got to bring that up. Come on.
This
is good. Yeah.
So if you just right across the street, you can see those cars. There's an alley right there. There's a garage. You take that alley down, it takes you down to 14th Street. So right there, the alley to 14th, I lived in the house right on the corner. So I grew up, again, as I've said, not many people can say they grew up on a Civil War battlefield, but I can.
There you go. Thank you very much.
So yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Cheers.